A real man understands that strength is not about brute force or loud proclamations, but about being a steady, unshakable presence. He is like a reservoir, deep and wide, holding the capacity to nurture and sustain those around him. When others draw from him, they are met with the refreshing waters of wisdom, compassion, and courage. This strength is cultivated, not inherited, and it grows through adversity, prayer, and perseverance. A man who pours strength into his family recognizes that his role is more than just a title. He is the rock when the storms of life rage, the voice of calm when chaos tries to creep in. He carries the weight of responsibility not as a burden, but as a privilege. His strength uplifts his spouse, instills confidence in his children, and provides an anchor for his household. In the community, a real man doesn't stand on the sidelines waiting for someone else to step up. He sees the needs, hears the cries, and acts. His strength is evident in his ability to unify people, to mend broken fences, and to inspire others to reach higher. His words carry weight, not because they're loud, but because they're backed by action and integrity. Strength is not selfish. A real man does not hoard his power for personal gain. Instead, he pours into others, understanding that true strength multiplies when shared. He recognizes that lifting someone else does not diminish him, but rather elevates them both. He is secure enough to celebrate others' success, knowing it doesn't take away from his own. The strength within a man is directly connected to his purpose. He is driven not by fleeting ambition, but by a sense of divine calling. This purpose fuels him, sustains him, and positions him to be a source of life for those around him. He understands that his strength is not for decoration, but for demonstration, to show what happens when faith meets determination. Even when he faces challenges, a real man doesn't collapse under the weight of his trials. Instead, he draws deeper from the well within. He knows that pain can produce power, and that adversity is often the training ground for the strength he will need tomorrow. He carries scars not as signs of defeat, but as proof of endurance. A real man's strength is also revealed in his ability to be vulnerable. He knows that showing his humanity doesn't make him weak, it makes him authentic. He is strong enough to admit when he needs help and wise enough to seek it from trusted sources. This humility makes his strength even more compelling. He leads by example, not by demand. His strength inspires others to rise to their potential. He doesn't push people down to elevate himself. He pulls others up, ensuring that they too have a chance to grow. He is a builder of people, a cultivator of dreams, and a steward of gifts. Strength is not about having all the answers, but about being willing to search for them. A real man remains a student of life, constantly learning and evolving. He understands that his strength is a resource that must be renewed daily through faith, reflection, and intentional living. His well never runs dry because he draws from a limitless source, ensuring he can continue to pour in no matter the demand. A man's presence carries a power far greater than words. It is the silent assurance that says, I am here and I am with you. When he chooses to show up fully engaged, he communicates love, care, and commitment in ways that words alone never could. His consistent presence becomes a foundation, a reminder that those who depend on him can always count on his steady hand and unwavering heart. In the moments that matter most, a man's presence speaks volumes. When his child takes their first step, when his family faces challenges, or when life delivers both joy and sorrow, his being there makes the difference. He doesn't need to have all the answers or fix every problem sometimes. The power is simply in being available, in saying, I will stand with you no matter what. Presence requires sacrifice. It's about prioritizing what truly matters, even when the demands of life pull in every direction. A man who understands the power of his presence learns to say no to distractions so he can say yes to the people and moments that define his legacy. He knows that showing up isn't just about physical proximity, but about emotional and spiritual connection. The power of a man's presence also lies in his consistency. He isn't a fleeting figure who appears only in times of celebration. Instead, he is a steady force who remains through the mundane, the difficult, and the extraordinary. His family knows that he won't walk away when the going gets tough, and his community sees him as a pillar they can lean on. When a man is fully present, he creates an atmosphere of safety. His presence reassures his loved ones that they are seen, valued, and protected. It tells them that no matter what challenges come their way, they are not facing them alone. His presence isn't just about what he does, it's about who he is in their lives. Presence is an act of leadership. A man who shows up is a man who leads by example. He demonstrates the importance of prioritizing relationships, of being reliable, and of valuing connection over convenience. His presence calls others higher, inspiring them to give the same gift to those in their own lives. The power of presence is transformative. It strengthens bonds, heals wounds, and builds trust. Even when he doesn't say much, his presence communicates volumes. It tells his children they are loved, his partner they are cherished, and his friends that they matter. His presence is the gift that keeps on giving. Being present also requires mindfulness. A man who understands this power knows that showing up means more than just being physically there. It's about being fully engaged. He listens, observes, and participates with intention. His attention is not divided and his focus is not elsewhere. In that moment, he is fully there. Ultimately, a man's presence reflects his priorities. It shows what he values most and where his heart truly lies. Those who experience the power of his presence are forever impacted, not by grand gestures or eloquent speeches, but by the simple, profound truth that he showed up when it mattered most. A man cannot pour from an empty vessel. To give to others, he must first be filled. He understands that his ability to serve, lead, and love depends on the strength he draws from within. This is why he prioritizes replenishment, because he knows that what flows out of him is only as pure and abundant as what he pours into himself. Replenishment isn't selfish, it's strategic. A real man recognizes that neglecting his own well-being limits his ability to pour into his family, his work, and his community. He takes time to nourish his soul through prayer, reflection, and connection with God. In those quiet moments, he finds the wisdom, peace, and clarity he needs to face life's demands. A man who pours from overflow values emotional health. He knows that suppressed emotions and unresolved pain can seep into his relationships, affecting those he loves most. So he does the hard work of healing, seeking counsel when necessary, and confronting what needs to be addressed. In doing so, he becomes a source of emotional stability, able to pour peace and understanding into the lives of others. Mental replenishment is equally important. A real man feeds his mind with knowledge, inspiration, and discipline. He reads, learns, and grows, knowing that stagnation leads to depletion. By sharpening his intellect and expanding his perspective, he equips himself to pour wisdom and guidance into those who look to him for leadership. When a man operates from overflow, his giving is not forced, it's natural. He doesn't pour out of obligation, but out of abundance. His love flows freely because it's rooted in the deep well of his spiritual and emotional reserves. His generosity is sustained because he has taken the time to fill himself first. Overflow happens when a man is intentional about his priorities. He recognizes that busyness is not the same as productivity, and that constant activity without replenishment leads to burnout. He makes space in his life for rest and renewal, understanding that rest is not a luxury but a necessity for those who are called to pour into others. The man who pours from overflow is a blessing to those around him. His words carry weight because they are spoken from a place of wisdom, not weariness. His actions inspire because they are rooted in joy, not obligation. He gives his best, not his leftovers, because he has learned the importance of filling his cup first. And when trials come, as they inevitably will, a man who operates from overflow does not run dry. His foundation is secure, his spirit is resilient, and his heart remains open. Continues to pour because his strength comes from a source that never runs out. He knows that as he gives, he will also receive, creating a cycle of abundance that blesses everyone in his life. To pour effectively, a man must be vigilant about guarding his heart and mind. He cannot afford to let negativity or distractions drain his reserves. Instead, he focuses on what uplifts, strengthens, and restores. By doing so, he ensures that what flows from him is life-giving and transformative, leaving a lasting impact on all who receive it. A real man doesn't live just for himself, he lives with the next generation in mind. He understands that his life is more than a single moment in time. It is a seed planted in the soil of eternity. Everything he does, every choice he makes, and every value he holds contributes to the legacy he leaves behind. He knows that what he builds today will shape the future for those who come after him. Legacy is not about wealth or fame, it's about influence and impact. A man who builds a legacy pours into people, not possessions. He takes the time to teach, mentor, and invest in the next generation, knowing that his wisdom and experiences can guide them toward a brighter future. He doesn't just tell them what to do, he shows them by example, living a life of integrity, faith, and purpose. To build a legacy, a man must lay a strong foundation. He starts with his character, ensuring that it is rooted in truth and guided by principles that stand the test of time. He knows that shaky foundations lead to collapsed structures, so he is intentional about building his life on solid ground. This foundation becomes the bedrock upon which others can safely build their own lives. A real man doesn't just think about his own success, he thinks about succession. He asks himself, who am I raising up? Who will carry the torch when I am gone? He doesn't see the next generation as competition, but as continuation. He pours his wisdom, resources, and encouragement into them, ensuring that they are equipped to go further than he ever could. Legacy is about more than words, it's about action. A man who builds a legacy doesn't just preach values, he lives them. His children see his faithfulness, his community witnesses his generosity, and his peers respect his consistency. He understands that his actions today will echo in the lives of those who follow him, shaping their choices and inspiring their dreams. The heart of a legacy builder is selflessness. He isn't consumed by the need for immediate gratification or personal gain. Instead, he thinks long-term, sacrificing in the present to create a future where others can thrive. He plants trees under whose shade he may never sit, knowing that true greatness is measured by what he leaves for others. A real man embraces the responsibility of stewardship. He sees his time, talents, and resources as gifts entrusted to him, not just for his benefit, but for the benefit of others. He invests wisely, not only in material wealth, but in the character and potential of those he leads. He sees the next generation not as burdens, but as blessings worthy of his time and attention. Building a legacy requires resilience. A man who pours into the next generation understands that the process is not always easy. There will be moments of doubt, challenges, and even setbacks, but he remains steadfast. He trusts that his labor is not in vain and that the seeds he sows today will bear fruit in due season. Ultimately, a man who builds a legacy understands that his impact is eternal. His words, deeds, and values will outlive him, carried forward by those he has poured into. He takes joy in knowing that his life was not lived in vain, but was a cornerstone upon which others could stand, reach higher, and accomplish more than he ever dreamed. A real man understands that protection is more than physical strength, it is a holistic responsibility. He is not just a shield against visible dangers, but a guardian of the unseen battles that threaten the hearts and minds of those he loves. His role is to create a safe space where his family and community can thrive, free from fear and harm. Protection begins with awareness. A real man is vigilant, discerning the subtle threats that can creep into his household. Whether it's negative influences, harmful ideologies, or emotional wounds, he stands as the first line of defense. He is not passive, he is proactive, addressing issues before they take root and ensuring that the environment around his loved ones is one of peace and safety. Emotional protection is one of a man's greatest responsibilities. He understands that words have power and that his tone and actions can either build up or tear down. A real man chooses to speak life, encouragement, and affirmation. He listens without judgment, offering a shoulder to lean on and a heart that truly understands. His presence becomes a refuge, a place where his loved ones feel valued and supported. Spiritual protection is the foundation of his role as a protector. A real man prays over his family, seeking divine guidance and strength to lead them well. He understands that there are battles that cannot be fought with his hands, but must be won on his knees. His faith becomes a covering, shielding his household from spiritual attacks and anchoring them in hope and truth. A man who protects also provides. Provision isn't limited to material needs. It encompasses emotional security, spiritual direction, and mental stability. He provides a vision for the future, a roadmap that guides his family toward purpose and fulfillment. His provision ensures that no one under his care feels neglected or forgotten. Protection requires courage. A real man is willing to stand in the gap, even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. He confronts challenges head on, not because he is fearless, but because his love outweighs his fear. His strength is not in avoiding the fight, but in stepping into it with wisdom and resolve, knowing that what he protects is worth the cost. True protection is rooted in love. A real man guards the hearts of those he loves, not out of obligation, but out of deep care. He is sensitive to their needs, attentive to their struggles, and committed to their growth. His protection is not controlling, it is liberating, creating an environment where those he loves can flourish without fear. So, a protector is also a teacher. He doesn't just shield his loved ones from harm, but equips them to face challenges on their own. He imparts wisdom, resilience, and faith, ensuring that they are prepared to navigate life's trials. His goal is not to create dependence, but to empower those under his care to stand strong and confident. In protecting others, a real man also guards his own heart and mind. He knows that his strength comes from within and that he must remain grounded to be effective. He prioritizes his own growth and well-being, understanding that he cannot protect and provide if he is depleted. By staying connected to his source of strength, he ensures that he can fulfill his role with excellence. Ultimately, protection is a commitment. A real man doesn't protect only when it's convenient. He remains steadfast through every season. His love and dedication are constant, offering those under his care the assurance that no matter what comes, they are not alone. His protection is a gift, a shield that reflects his unwavering devotion and selfless heart. A real man leads with vision, seeing not just what is, but what could be. His eyes are fixed on possibilities that others may overlook, and his heart is anchored in faith that the unseen can become reality. Leadership begins with this kind of vision, a deep understanding of where he is going, and a clear sense of how to take others with him. A man with vision doesn't just live for today, he lives for the future. He sees beyond immediate challenges and keeps his focus on the greater goal. His vision gives him the strength to endure setbacks and the wisdom to navigate obstacles. He knows that his role as a leader is to pave the way so others can follow confidently. Leadership with vision requires clarity. A real man communicates his vision with passion and purpose, ensuring that those who walk alongside him understand the path ahead. He doesn't lead through confusion or chaos, he brings focus and direction. His words inspire, and his actions validate his commitment to the journey. A visionary leader pours into others, knowing that leadership is not about personal glory but collective success. He takes the time to develop those around him, recognizing their potential and encouraging their growth. He sees what they cannot see in themselves, speaking life into their dreams and equipping them to rise higher. A man who leads with vision is not afraid to make hard decisions. He understands that leadership comes with responsibility, and he is willing to take risks for the sake of the vision. His courage inspires confidence in others, and his willingness to stand firm in adversity strengthens the resolve of those who follow him. Visionary leadership is also marked by humility. A real man knows that his vision is not about him, but about the greater good. He seeks wisdom from others, listens to their perspectives, and acknowledges that he doesn't have all the answers. This humility makes his leadership authentic and earns the trust of those he guides. A man who leads with vision remains steadfast even when the path is unclear. He knows that leadership often requires faith in the vision, faith in the people he leads, and faith in the one who gave him the calling. His conviction becomes a guiding light, illuminating the way even in the darkest moments. The power of vision lies in its ability to unite. A real man brings people together around a common goal, fostering collaboration and teamwork. He understands that leadership is not about control, but about empowerment, helping others see how their unique contributions fit into the bigger picture. Together, they move toward the promised land. Finally, a man who leads with vision leaves a legacy. His leadership doesn't end with him. It carries on in the lives of those he has poured into. His vision becomes their vision, and his impact continues long after he is gone. He doesn't just guide others to the promised land, he equips them to lead others there as well, ensuring that the journey doesn't end but multiplies for generations to come. Love is not about convenience, it's about commitment, and real men understand that commitment often requires sacrifice. They know that to pour into the lives of others is to give of themselves, sometimes their time, sometimes their resources, and often their very hearts. The sacrificial pour isn't easy, but it is the purest expression of love. A man who pours sacrificially understands that love without sacrifice is hollow. True love costs something, whether it's laying aside personal desires, enduring discomfort, or walking the extra mile for someone else. He embraces this cost, not begrudgingly, but willingly, because he sees the value of the lives he is investing in. Sacrifice requires strength, not the kind that flexes for attention, but the kind that endures in silence. A real man doesn't announce his sacrifices, he simply makes them. He works late to provide, rises early to lead, and perseveres in love even when it's not reciprocated. His sacrifices are unseen by many, but deeply felt by those who matter most. The sacrificial poor is fueled by vision. A real man understands that what he gives up today is planting seeds for tomorrow. He sacrifices his comfort to ensure his family's security, his personal ambitions to mentor the next generation, and his convenience to build a legacy. His eyes are on the harvest, knowing the reward far outweighs the cost. Sacrificial love is patient. A real man doesn't demand instant results or immediate recognition for what he gives. He pours consistently even when there's no applause, trusting that his efforts are shaping hearts, minds, and futures. He knows that sacrifice isn't a one-time act, but a lifestyle of choosing others above himself. This kind of love is also marked by wisdom. A real man knows where to pour and how to pour, ensuring that his sacrifices are purposeful and effective. He doesn't waste his strength on pursuits that don't align with his values. Instead, he focuses his energy on what truly matters: his family, his faith, and his calling. Sacrificial pouring often involves pain. A real man accepts this reality, understanding that love's deepest work is often done in the hardest places. He doesn't shy away from the cost, but embraces it, knowing that the greatest rewards come through the greatest sacrifices. His love is refined in the fire of giving until it hurts. Yet in pouring out, he also finds fulfillment. A real man discovers that sacrifice doesn't leave him empty, it fills him with purpose. The joy of seeing his family flourish, his community grow stronger, or his legacy take root far outweighs any momentary discomfort. He gives not to lose, but to multiply blessings in the lives of others. The sacrificial pour is a reflection of selfless love. A real man understands that his sacrifices are a testament to his commitment, a living proof of his devotion. He pours out not because it's easy, but because he knows the worth of those he's pouring into. And in the end, his sacrifices become the foundation upon which love, trust, and legacy are built. Pouring out doesn't have to leave a man empty. In fact, it can be the very act that fills him up again. A real man understands the paradox of selfless giving, that when he pours into others with a genuine heart, he often finds himself renewed in ways he never expected. Restoration is hidden in the act of pouring out, and purpose flows back to the one who gives. A man finds strength in his sacrifices when he sees the impact of his love on the lives of those he serves. Every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, and every moment of his time becomes a seed that grows into something meaningful. Seeing his family thrive, his community strengthen, or someone's life change reminds him why he pours and renews his spirit for the journey ahead. There's healing in giving. When a man pours out selflessly, he often finds that the very act of focusing on others helps him process his own challenges. The burdens of life feel lighter when shared with purpose, and the simple joy of making a difference brings clarity and peace to his heart. Giving becomes a balm for his soul. Selfless pouring connects a man to something greater than himself. It draws him out of isolation and into the flow of life where purpose is found. He discovers that his efforts are part of a larger story, one where his contributions have eternal value. This realization restores his sense of meaning, reminding him that his life is significant. The act of pouring out is also an act of trust. A real man knows he doesn't have to hold back out of fear of running dry, because he believes in a source greater than himself. As he gives, he receives, not always in tangible ways, but in peace, fulfillment, and strength. His faith sustains him, reminding him that restoration comes as he walks in his purpose. Pouring out teaches a man gratitude. As he invests in others, he often sees how much he has to give, not just in material things, but in wisdom, love, and experience. This awareness restores his perspective, shifting his focus from what he lacks to the abundance he already possesses. Gratitude becomes the fuel that keeps him pouring with joy. In the act of giving, a man discovers community. He finds connection with those he serves and with others who are pouring out alongside him. These relationships restore his heart, providing encouragement and reminding him that he is not alone in his journey. Together, they create a cycle of giving and receiving that strengthens everyone involved. Restoration comes when a man sees the ripple effect of his pouring. His acts of love and service inspire others to do the same, creating a legacy of selflessness that outlives him. Knowing that his efforts are multiplying gives him renewed energy to keep going, even when the road is difficult. Finally, a real man finds renewal in the act of pouring because it aligns with his purpose. He knows he was made to give, to build, and to uplift. Every time he pours, he steps into the fullness of who he was created to be. And in that place, he discovers the kind of restoration that can only come from living a life of selfless love. A real man understands that his ability to pour into others is not rooted in his own strength, but in his faith. He recognizes that everything he has, his time, talents, resources, and energy, is a gift from God, and it is from this divine source that he draws the strength to give selflessly. His faith serves as the bedrock of his pouring, the unshakable foundation that sustains him when the journey gets difficult. Faith as the foundation means that a real man trusts God's provision. He doesn't pour with a mindset of scarcity, worrying that he might run dry or that he's giving too much. Instead, he knows that God's resources are unlimited. As he pours out, he is confident that the source will always refill him. This trust frees him to give without fear of depletion, knowing that as he blesses others, he too will be blessed. A man whose foundation is faith understands that pouring is an act of obedience. God has called him to serve, to lead, and to love, and his faith compels him to act. He doesn't give based on what he feels he can afford. He gives because he believes in the eternal impact of his actions. Faith moves him to pour even when it's inconvenient or when the results are not immediate. He trusts that every act of service is seen by God, and in time it will bear fruit. His faith also shapes the way he pours. A real man knows that the quality of what he gives is just as important as the quantity. He pours with intention, guided by his faith, ensuring that his actions align with his values. His giving is not done out of obligation, but from a heart that believes in the power of love and service to transform lives. Faith enables a man to pour when the results are unseen. He may never fully know the impact of his actions, but he trusts that God sees the heart behind the sacrifice. And whether it's encouraging a struggling friend, mentoring someone in need, or providing for his family, he doesn't need instant recognition because he knows that God rewards the faithful. His faith assures him that every seed sown in love will eventually yield a harvest. A real man understands that pouring out is not just for others, but for his own growth as well. Each act of service strengthens his relationship with God and deepens his faith. As he gives, he grows, learning more about God's character and his own purpose. Faith becomes the engine that drives him to pour, and each time he does, he is transformed into the man he was created to be. His faith is also a shield against weariness. When a man pours continuously, it's easy to become tired, frustrated, or discouraged. But a man who trusts in God's provision is not bound by the limitations of his own strength. His faith revives him, reminding him that his labor is not in vain and that God will give him the energy, wisdom, and encouragement he needs to continue his mission. Faith as the foundation teaches a man humility. He knows that every good thing he has is from God, and this awareness keeps him grounded. He doesn't take credit for what he gives because he knows he is merely a vessel. His faith reminds him that God is the ultimate source, and he is just an instrument through which God's love flows. Ultimately, faith allows a man to pour abundantly because he is confident that his giving will never exceed what God can restore. As he pours into others, he is simultaneously receiving from God, replenishing his spirit, and growing in his purpose. His faith becomes the compass that guides his pouring, ensuring that it is always aligned with the will of the one who called him to serve. Thanks for watching.